Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Cheshire, Batgirl, Ross, and Raven, part 3. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Namikis09, link is in the description, also subscribe if you enjoy the video, let's start the story. On top of a warehouse, a shadowed figure was silently stalking around the rooftop until he found a hatch. He crouches down and pulls it out, but then stops to scan his surroundings for anything odd. He then hops into the opening and lands on the ground with a crouch. Were you followed? A figure asked in the darkness, and his answer was a snort from the other figure in the shadows. Of course not, I've been doing this for a long time. The gruff voice replied back with annoyance lacing off his voice. He stepped out of the shadows, revealing himself to be none other than Lawrence Crusher Croc aka Sportsmaster. He is a tall, strongly built man, cutting an intimidating figure with short blonde hair. His face is covered by a grey hockey mask, which only reveals his brown eyes. He wears what seems like a sleeveless blue muscle shirt, with a collar that covers some of his neck, along with arm and elbow pads on both arms and fingerless gloves. On his left arm, he has metal plates attached that act very much like armor. He wears black pants with pockets that hold his weapons. He also has a belt that acts very much like the utility belt, holding various types of high-tech, sports-themed weaponry. The other figure chuckles in the shadows. My apologies, you are after all the best in working in the shadows, next to me of course. The figure walks out of the darkness as well, revealing himself to be none other than Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, who was in his civilian clothes. So did you manage to bring it? Sportsmaster nodded and shuffled through his pocket, pulling out an external hard drive and tossing it to Naruto, who caught it. It wasn't easy getting this data, kid, just be sure it's put to good use. He informed his fellow blonde. Don't worry, I will, and I take it your bosses have no idea about your double crossing? Naruto asked and got a nod from the man. They have no idea about this at all. I told you, I've been in this business longer than you've been born, and I know the last thing I need is to get caught. Sportsmaster replied back before pulling off his mask, revealing his face. So tell me how my wife and kids are doing. Naruto smirks while he places his hands in his pockets. They're doing well actually. Artemis is excelling well in archery, and to the point where she could pin a fly to the wall without killing it. He chuckles at the dry joke. Jade is as sly as ever and still wants to kick your ass 6 ways till Sunday. The 18-year-old ninja heard the man mumble, and no surprise there, since he had to hunt Jade down for running from the League of Shadows a few years back. And Paula? How's she handling things in her current condition? Lawrence asked. Why don't you ask her? The man raised a brow, but then they both rose up as he saw Paula roll out of the shadows in her wheelchair and look back at the shocked expression of her husband. Paula? He stuttered out as she rolled up to him. Hello Lawrence, it's been a while. She said back to the father of her children. His expression went from shock to angry, but not at Paula. He glares back at Naruto, who stares back in a stoic fashion. Why did you bring her here? He growled in a low but angry tone. I asked him to bring me here because I wanted to see you. She answered in Naruto's stead. Lawrence on the other hand didn't look too pleased at the response and still glared at the young blonde. Glare all you want, old man. I may be the world's greatest ninja, but I know better than to cross a woman, especially one like your wife here. Naruto muttered with his arms folded, looking the other way. The blank expression formed on Lawrence's face and couldn't help but inwardly agree with Naruto's logic when it came to women. Lawrence, he looked down at his wife's calm form but noticed the pleading look in her eyes. He lets out a sigh and brushes his hair back. Fine, can you give us some time alone for a sec? He requested. Naruto nods and steps back into the shadows and out of plain sight. The two couples looked at each other for what seemed like forever before the man spoke. How are you doing, honey? Lawrence mentally cursed himself for asking his wife a stupid question like that, but he received a smile from his question on her well-being. I'm doing fine, dear, and despite my current condition, I am getting a lot of help from Artemis, Jade, and from Naruto. He takes a lot of time out of his day to make sure I'm doing fine. She answered with a smile, and then her expression turned serious. Though I am curious to know when you were going to tell me about your role as his informant in the shadows. Although Lawrence didn't show it, he inwardly grimaced at the serious expression on his wife's face, since he hasn't seen that look in a long time, and when she usually does, someone is either on the verge of getting hurt or killed. Do you understand the danger you're putting yourself in? Paula, please, I know what I'm doing. He said with a hint of annoyance in his tone. Paula on the other hand was trying not to roll her eyes at her husband's arrogant attitude. Really? Even after you nearly killed our eldest daughter a few years back? She hissed in a low tone. What were you thinking? Lawrence on the other hand narrows his brown eyes at hers, matching her glare to glare. Do you honestly think I would actually kill my own daughter? I may be a lot of things, Paula, but I would never take the life of my own kid. I'm not a mindless killer like that sass character, and if I hadn't gone after her, Roz would have sent someone else, and when I say someone else, I mean White Tiger. The retired assassin gasps out in shock when he mentions that cold-blooded killer who had it out for Jade when she joined the shadows and easily rose up in the ranks. I should get going, the longer I stay here, the more suspicious Roz will get. He turned to walk away, but after his third step, he stopped when he felt his hand being held in a pair of smaller ones. He turns around, his sharp brown eyes staring back in the dark gray eyes of his wife. "Lawrence, please, at least talk to me if only for a few minutes," she asked softly. Said man closed his eyes in thought for a few seconds and sighs, getting down on one knee to meet his wife's eyes. "Alright," he agreed, "the kid told me you've been going to physical therapy for the past 2 months. Any signs of life?" He glanced at her legs, and she noticed a hint of guilt and anger in his but not at her. It was directed to himself, because during their last mission, the laser point of a sniper was aimed at him, and he was unaware of it due to the fight between him and some bodyguards. Paula, who was Huntress at the time, noticed and instantly pushed him out of the way. The only thing the man heard at first was the sound of gunfire, and when he recovered from his shock, he saw the unconscious form of his wife with a bullet hole near the area of her spinal column bleeding out on the pavement. She smiled at the form of concern in his voice and nodded. "A little, right now I'm able to move my hips around more efficiently and so far, I can wiggle 3 out of 5 toes on each foot." A small smile rose one the side of his face, showing he was pleased with the slow but steady results. "That's good to hear, still conditioning." "Yes dear, I'm still exercising. My kicks won't be as effective as they used to be, but I still have my fists. That and my skills with a crossbow have improved, and I keep a set of kunai and shuriken on my person just in case," she said and pats her purse, emphasizing she always left the house prepared for anything. Lawrence chuckles and shakes his head in amusement. "And you wondered what it was that made me fall in love with you?" he remarked before feeling her hands wrap around one of his. "I have to be honest, Lawrence, I don't like what you're doing," Paula said. He was about to give her his reasons, but she spoke up once again. "Working for Roz is one thing, but being a double agent is just as dangerous." Lawrence placed his other hand around her smaller ones and gave them a comforting squeeze. "I know honey, but this is the only way this whole thing can end faster. I'm still getting intel on the Light's objectives since I'm one of the agents among their ranks and they don't suspect a thing." "I understand that, but still." A wave of different emotions rushed through her and she closed her eyes in order to get herself in check since she didn't want to look weak in front of her husband. "Promise me you'll be careful if things start to look bad you get out." "Paula. Promise me." She snapped back, surprising her husband, but what surprised him the most were the tears that formed in her eyes and the anger in them. Never in his life had he seen her shed one tear except for when she had Jade and Artemis, but that was due to her conceiving them. "I've lost too much in my life, and I am not going to lose the only family I have left in this world. It took me 6 years in prison to realize that." Her expression softened and tears flowed down her cheeks as she gazed into her husband's eyes. "You have no idea how much I worry about our daughters and you, Lawrence, and to lose any of you now would break my heart greatly." From the shadows, Naruto watched the ordeal and inwardly smirked as he saw the man's eyes soften if only slightly. "Promise me you'll get out if things start to look dire for you, Lawrence, promise me," she begged in a choked voice, sobbing a little. Lawrence eyed softly and proceeded to gently brush her tears away. "Okay Paula, if things get out of hand I'll get the hell out of Dodge. I promise," he answered. Paula looked up to see him smiling. She knew her husband would never lie or deceive her in any way unless it was absolutely necessary. Paula then places both hands on the sides of his face and gently rubs his rugged features. "Thank you Lawrence, I love you." "I love you too Paula." He leans forward and they engage into a passionate kiss for a few seconds and then part. "Wow, it's been a while since we've kissed like that." Paula blushed at the teasing grin etched on his face and giggled before hearing a cough. "Are you two quite done or do I need to leave the warehouse so you two can catch up?" Naruto asked from the shadows, causing Paula to blush at the implication, but Lawrence glared at him. "Shut up brat." Lawrence growled before checking his watch. "Time for me to go dear and Naruto. You better look out for Paula and my little girls or they will be hell to pay," he warned the blonde ninja. "Sure thing old man." Naruto answered back, resulting in the agent of the light to mumble about brats, showing no respect to their elders these days, before giving Paula one final kiss, pulling his mask on and heads out of the warehouse. Arkham Asylum. "Alright Harleen Quinzel, Pamela Isley starting today, you two will be on a 3-week probation period and if you both show progress, then the parole will be lifted and you two will be free women." The parole officer, Henry Thompson, informed the two as he shuffled some paperwork. Harley had a megawatt grin on her face, while Ivy looked impassive. Arlene was wearing a white sleeveless button dress shirt with a pair of dark red pants and shoes with her hair in a single ponytail. Pamela wore a simple sleeveless dark green dress that stopped above her knees, with a red rose on the right side of her chest, with a pair of green sandals. The door behind them opened up, revealing none other than Naruto and Rose, who had her hair covering the left side of her face. "Hey ladies." Naruto greeted and once again was glumped by Harley, much to Rose's ire, due to her brow twitching and her arms folded against her chest. Pamela on the other hand looked intrigued and amused at the sight. "Hello Rose." Ivy greeted, getting a nod from the white-haired girl. Harley stopped hugging the 18-year-old ninja and smirks. "Here Rosie." Harleen greeted and got a glare from her. "Rose, you promised to be nice to Harley-chan today," Naruto reminded his girlfriend. Harley waved happily at the daughter of the Terminator with a bright smile on her face, only for Rose to turn her head sharply away from her. Henry stared at the scene in wonder, but didn't dwell on it for too long. "Okay Mr. Namikaze, if you would be so kind as to sign these papers," he suggested. Naruto nodded and signed the release forms, handing them back to the parole officer and then receiving another copy. "Okay then, that is all and good luck, God knows you'll need it." He said the last part as quietly as possible, getting a chuckle from the blonde. "Don't worry, I think I'll manage," he said before Harley wrapped her arms around his left arm. "I'm on Whiskers times A," the former sidekick of the Joker said as she pulled him out of the officer's office, with Rose mumbling to herself and Ivy following behind. The safe house. The safe house Naruto and Rose took Harley and Ivy to was a two-story building that was located outside the city of Gotham in a forested area. "Here we are ladies, home sweet home," Naruto said as he pulled out a key and unlocked the door. After opening it, he lets Harley and Pam enter first, and when he switches the lights on, they gasp at the sight before them. The place was well decorated with fine furniture, pictures, antiques, etc. Hanging on the wall was a 55-inch LCD Toshiba Smart TV with a surround sound Blu-ray theater system that was perched onto a TV stand. There were also 2 computer desks, each with a Gateway Mac desktop complete with speakers, a mouse, and keyboard. "My God," Pamela whispered while Harleen simply gawked at how beautiful the place was. Even Rose was impressed at the place and whistled lowly. "Wow Naruto, this place must have cost you a fortune," she said, getting a chuckle from her boyfriend. "It barely put a dent in my account. I've been sprucing this place up for the last couple of weeks," he replied while the female duo looked stunned beyond words. "And if you think this is awesome, just wait until you see upstairs." Naruto then leads Harley and Pam up the stairs with Rose following. "Second floor." "Oh my God," the two said at the same time as they gazed at the sight before them. On the left side of the room it looked like a mix between a circus and miniature amusement park, while the right side looked similar to a greenhouse, complete with a large variety of plants and flowers, as well as outdoor accessories like fountains, 3 small ponds, etc. "I take it you both like it?" Naruto asked, grinning at their stumped expressions. "I love it," Harley squealed and once again pulled Naruto into a hug, pressing his head against her bosoms with said blonde flushing slightly at the hug. Rose's brow twitched as she witnessed the ex-criminal smothered her boyfriend, and if looks could kill, then Harley would be dead by now. Said female blonde paused in her hug due to hearing animalistic laughter and paws patting on the floor. "Bud? Blue?" Harley asked, and from the shadows, the 2 hyenas were running towards their master panting happily. Harley's face lit up and unknowingly dropped Naruto on the ground, face flat, getting a snicker from Rose and an amused chuckle from Pam. "My babies," she cried as she knelt down with her arms wide open and embraced the 2 hyenas who laughed happily and licked her face, getting a giggle from her. "Mommy missed you too," she cooed as they licked and nuzzled her face. "Ow." Naruto manages to get back up, rubbing the back of his head, but smiles as he sees Harley sweet-talking to her 2 hyenas. Pamela went over to the garden side, inspecting the flowers and other plants, and gently brushed her hands against the petals of a red rose. "They're so beautiful and healthy," she said with admiration in her voice and smiled at the blonde sage. Naruto on the other hand grinned at her compliment on the vegetation. "What can I say? I'm gifted," he said, "that and due to my unique energy source, the plants here are not only stronger, but can live in any climate," he explained to the former botanist, who took a whiff of the rose's scent before releasing a sigh of approval. "Hey Foxy, quick question," Harley called out, getting his attention. "This place is only known to us, right?" Naruto nodded at her answer. "So there is no way Batman can find this place?" Naruto pondered on it and shook his head. "Nope, I personally created this place, and no one except for me, Rose, you two, and a few close friends whom I can trust with my life, know about my safe houses. That, and as a precaution, a barrier forms around the place that is undetectable and impenetrable to the humans, metahumans, and aliens. Not even Superman's vision or strength could penetrate the barrier." Harley was confused for a moment, but simply nodded before scratching the bud behind the ear. Rose pulls out her iPhone to see what time it is and slips it back into her pocket. "Naruto," she called out. He turned to her and saw her tap her wrist and nod. Got it, sorry to cut this short ladies, but we've got to meet up with a contact of ours in a little bit, so feel free to explore the rest of the place, but stay on the premises, because the seals around the house activate automatically every hour or so, and only I can deactivate the defense. They both nodded at the blonde ninja, and he, along with Rose, headed out. "Bye Foxy, Rosie and tell Mr. T I said hi," Harley said, waving her hand in a goodbye gesture. Rose on the other paused in her walk and gave Naruto a blank look. "Mr. D?" She questioned and wondered if the psychologists in Arkham were sane when they considered Harley to be cured. "Would you have preferred if she called your old man Mr. TT?" Naruto asked the daughter of the world's greatest mercenary and again got a sigh from her. "Knowing my dad, he'd probably kill just for even thinking of the name," she muttered, but Naruto heard it and chuckled. Santa Prisca. Venom Factory. Abra stood over a balcony with an arrogant smirk on his face as he heard his subjects chant his name. The reason why is because not too long ago his group managed to take over the island, as well as round up Bane and his men in a factory where they created the neo-steroid venom. After the takeover, Bane was given a chance to gain freedom and reclaim the facility if he defeated their champion. He agreed to it and was given his venom power-up device, while Shimmer, his right hand, had injected her brother Mammoth with an experimental serum called Cobra Venom, which was a mixture of the neo-steroid and the blockbuster formula developed by Cadmus and somehow acquired it under unknown sources. The effects resulted in Mammoth transforming into a muscle-bound behemoth and was stronger and faster than Bane. The mutated human took Bane down consecutively despite the man being enhanced with venom. Abra is very tall, towering over many people. His eyes are red with black rings around them, high cheekbones, and coupled with his muscular build, he is an intimidating figure. His skin is very pale, almost grayish, and his head is completely bald, though it is only revealed when he takes off his red cape, which features a snake-like hood with 2 fangs and sharp orange eyes. He sported a pair of black pants with a yellow belt that featured a snake symbol on the buckle. He also wears long red greaves with padded red gloves that cover most of his forearm. The gloves are red, but they have a yellow streak encircling each end. On the back of his hand, the gloves have small yellow eyes and yellow fangs at the ends of each glove, very much like the fangs of his hood. "It would appear that the test is a success just as you predicted, my lord," Shimmer said, getting a nod of agreement from her master. "Indeed, Shimmer. Our buyers will be most pleased with the results," the pale name said as he watched his subordinates remove Bane and his colleagues out of the factory. "Are the ampules ready for transport?" The 18-year-old girl nodded. "Yes sir, the case is ready, and we also have several large shipments ready for transportation." Cobra's facial expression went from stoic to pleasing, knowing they were on schedule. "Even more great news, as I have other buyers who would be very interested in our product. Once our buyer comes to retrieve the sample, prepare the shipments to be transferred to our other bases of operation," he instructed. Meanwhile, from the shores of Santa Prisca, a giant emerald snake slithers out of the shallow water and descends into the dark jungle. It stops and coils up before opening its vast maw. Naruto was the first to exit out of the legless reptile's mouth, followed by Ravager, Cheshire, and Artemis. The serpent then disperses back to its realm once everyone is out. "I'm never gonna get used to that," Ravager commented as she stretched her limbs in order to get the kinks out. "Maybe, but it was a lot faster than taking a jet or a boat to the island," Cheshire reminded the daughter of Deathstroke. Artemis on the other hand was rubbing her arms. "Speaking for yourself, I feel slimy," Artemis complained with a look of discomfort on her face, earning a chuckle from Ereshkigal. "Don't worry, it takes some getting used to when using my summons for transportation, Artemis." He looked around the area to see nothing in particular. "Any idea when the master thief will show up?" His response was a figure landing before them in a crouching position before standing up to his full height. From his appearance, he seemed to be close to Cage's height. He was garbed in what appeared to be a black full bodysuit with what appeared to be laced with Kevlar. Attached to the suit were thin pieces of grey shoulder guards, arm guards, and shin guards over the boots that had steel soles, as well as ash grey-like gloves that stopped around his forearm. Around his waist was a grey utility belt that contained a variety of weapons and tools. On his gloves were 2 X that were red and also one on his left pectoral muscle. He also wore a black cape that was red on the inside of it and in the same style as the Dark Knight. Concealing his entire head was a black mask that looked more like a protective helmet in appearance, and over the eyes was a pair of built-in red visors. "What took you guys so long? Did Ravager get seasick again?" Red X asked, though his voice sounded more deeper and mechanical. Ravager rolled her eyes in annoyance at her brother's remark before realizing something. "Say, where's Jericho? I thought he was coming with you, X," she questioned. "He had a date with that brunette he's been crushing on for the last 3 months and finally asked her out." A snicker escaped as he visualized his brother's embarrassed state when he asked that hot brunette out and was sweating bullets. "I thought the poor guy was gonna faint when she said yes and dragged him off." Figures, why join his siblings on a recon mission at a tropical island where a supervillain is smuggling neo-steroids when you can go on a date? Rose remarked in a joking tone. Grant aka Red X chuckled at the remark and then noticed Artemis. So who's the blonde chick with the bow and arrows? Arrowhead. Jade smiles at the jab, but her sister wasn't amused at the name the master thief gave her. The name Artemis, I'm Cheshire's sister. She remarked. Oh, so you're Jade's baby sister? Are you any good with that bow or are you just a Green Arrow fanatic? He teased me. Artemis looked miffed, especially when she's being called a superhero fangirl. No, I'm not a Green Arrow fanatic, I just happen to like the color green, and yes, I am very good with a bow. I could pin a fly to the wall by its wings without killing it. She stated as she prided herself in her skills with a bow and arrow, despite the fact that her dad taught her how to wield one when she was younger. On the other hand, costs to get their attention. As interesting as this is, we do have a mission to do. So X, what info did you get on this place? The former Cage asked the master thief. Red X pulls out a circular device and clicks a button, causing a holographic screen to appear, showing the map of an island. Santa Prisca is an island that was once the location of a prison called Pinaduro, which held the most vicious criminals on this coast, before being shut down for illegal experimentations used on the inmates. The abandoned prison was later turned into a factory by a man named Bane. An image of a muscular masked man of Spaniard descent appeared from what I gathered. He was once a prisoner of the island for most of his natural life, as well as a test subject for the venom formula, and has made the island his base of operation for the neo-steroid drug. Any possibility that we can fast forward through the history lesson? Artemis asked and got a chuckle from Grant. Sure thing, Archer girl. Cheshire chuckles at the nickname her irritated sister was given and glared at the former shadow. Apparently the island was taken over by a group of cultists we know as the Cult of the Cobra. He finished. Oh great, the self-proclaimed living god has taken over the island. I knew I should have finished him off back in Bloodhaven when he was recruiting new members and performing ritual sacrifices. Naruto muttered since the man set the underground cathedral to self-destruct after taking the man's arm and cutting his forces down to a minimum. Yeah, and let's not forget he placed a bounty on your head for nearly taking his head off, buddy. I just wish I was there to see you lop his arm off. Red X commented. Arishikage grinned under his mask and smiled. Oh, don't worry, I got the arm hanging on my mantle as a trophy, he joked before getting serious. Do you have any idea why he's interested in venom? Red X shook his head. No clue, but whatever it is, it can't be good, so I suggest we get a move on. Yeah, but first, big brother, how do you know so much about Santa Prisca's history? I thought it was classified as top secret. Rose questioned and knew her brother was grinning behind his mask. I didn't learn hacking just for the fun of it, and Dad was one hell of an instructor. He answered. So what's the plan, Mr. Super Ninja? As he placed a portable projector on the ground, the map grew and revealed a more distinguished form of the island, while Naruto studied it for a few seconds. Since the factory is located right in the center of the island, it's possible Cobra security would be guarding the front and the sides, and leave several small squads to patrol the routes around it as a precaution, and alert the base should they spot any intruders. And by doing that, they'll be spreading their forces out with a few guards patrolling the major key points in the factory. Artemis surmised and got a nod from Rose. And let's not forget the possibility of Cobra hiring heavy hitters to protect the factory and the venom, so we may encounter some mercenaries or metahumans who are under his peril. Ravage stated. So our best option is to keep to the shadows and avoid confrontation for now. Cheshire finished and got a nod from X. Correct, so just to be safe, we'll split up. Cheshire and Artemis will take the eastern sector. Since the jungle fauna is more dense and larger, you'll be able to easily blend in with your surroundings without being noticed and keep an eye out for any patrols. Ravager and X will take the western sector and take down any squads in order to minimize the security. He instructed. What about you, Cage? Ravager asked. I'll be searching for a clear route directly towards the factory, and once that's done, I'll contact you all and we'll regroup at my location. And X, are you positive no one can hack into our wireless frequencies? Cage asked and got a nod. Positively, I tested these babies and they are foolproof and can't even be shut down by radio jammers if there is one inside the factory. He assured the ninja, who nodded in satisfaction. Good, now move out. Artemis and Jade take off into the east section, Red X and Rose teleport away, and Naruto leaps off in the middle of the forest. Eastern sector. Cheshire was on top of a tree branch scanning the area with the built-in thermal scanners in her mask, searching for any forms of footprints or body signatures. Artemis was blending in with the fauna and moving silently on the ground with her bow and arrow ready. She goes behind a large tree and peeks over it before looking up at her older sibling, who does a gesture, saying the coast was clear and they could move ahead, getting a nod from her, and they move forward. Western sector. The Wilson siblings were watching a small squad of cobra goons patrolling the jungle wielding FAMA's machine guns. Red X pulls out a round circular device and brings his arm back, waiting for the group to get closer to the middle. Ravager glances at her brother and nods, resulting in him throwing the smoke pellet towards the cultists. The smokescreen exploded around them, causing the goons to cough out as the smokescreen blocked out their vision. The Master Thief watched as his sister leapt into the smog and beat the group down before the smoke cleared, revealing their fallen forms, and Ravager clapped the dust off her hands. "Nice work sis, couldn't have done any better," Grant commented as he landed next to her. "Stop kissing up and help me tie these clowns up before more come around," she says but smiles at the small praise her brother gives her. "Sure thing." But Naruto. Arashikage was dashing through the forest like a blur, stopping every few seconds to check if the route to the factory was clear. He was about to dash off again, but stopped when he heard gunfire. That's not coming from where Jade or Artemis are or near Rose and Grant's location. "Paige, do you hear gunfire?" Ravager asked through the communicator in his ear, which he taps and nods. "Yeah, but it's far from where you and the others are located," he replied back. "Should we regroup? If possible, meet up with Artemis and Cheshire. I'll catch up after finding the source of the gunfire and who else is on this island aside from us," Arashikage answered. "Looks like the snake hunt's been put on hold for now, bro." Red X commented and got a chuckle from Naruto. "Seems that way, X. I'll contact you guys once I find the source of whatever's causing chaos without inviting us to help out." Afterwards, Naruto shimmers away in a gust of wind to his next destination. Naruto frowned underneath his mask as he witnessed the scene of the Cobra Cults and Bane's group engaging in gunfire until Kid Flash came tumbling down in the middle, causing them to halt their battle for a few seconds and then fire on him. As he escaped, Superboy, Miss Martian, and Robin appeared to help their comrade by taking down both groups, with Aqualid appearing last and knocking out a Cobra agent that tried to get away. He lets out a sigh and brushes his hair back in an annoyed fashion. "Great, the Little Leaguers are here. Things just got more complicated." He shunsons into the jungle while the young heroes discuss how to proceed with their covert mission. Meanwhile, Ravager, Cheshire, Artemis, and Red X met up at a small clearing where Naruto appeared in a gust of wind. "Took you long enough, Arashi," X commented as he folded his arms. "We've got a problem." The blonde ninja informs the others. "What kind of problem? Did anyone see you?" Ravager asked and got a negative shake as her answer. "No, but the Little Leaguers are here on the island," he answered, getting confused looks from Cheshire, Artemis, and X. "Who?" "Kid Flash, Robin, Aqualid, a female Martian, and the miniature version of Superman. Ravager and I met in Cadmus," Naruto answered. Rose, however, palmed her face and shook her head. "Well, that's just great," she muttered. "Are they gonna cause us some problems on this mission?" X asked. He knew about each of the sidekicks of the League due to some past encounters with them, except for the female Martian and what Cage stated Superman Jr. If they had someone like that in a jungle, then that is spelling disaster considering his abilities. "Definitely, I don't know what their objective is on the island, but it'll jeopardize our objective," Naruto answers. Red X, how close are we to the factory? The Master Thief checked his built-in GPS and searched for the closest route around the factory. "Very close if we continue to go through this route." "Good, let's move out." Factory. Two cobras were guarding the back door of the factory, keeping an eye out for anything out of the ordinary. One of them grunted in pain and reached behind his neck and pulled out a dart of some sort before collapsing. "What the ugh?" The second guard was hit in the back of the neck by and dropped to the ground as well. Cheshire and Naruto hopped out of the trees and landed in front of the unconscious guard and said former Shadow was putting the blow dart back in her belt. "You'd think that an extremist organization would have more security," Cheshire said as the others joined up. "No kidding, you'd at least expect them to have laser tripwires, motion sensing mines, or even gun turrets," X replied as he pulled a lockpick out and unlocked the doorknob and opened it carefully. He peeks in and taps a button on the side of his visors which glows red before fading. Area's clear. They each enter and silently, with Rose and Artemis dragging the unconscious bodies in and closing the door behind them. They ventured through the factory silently, keeping a sharp eye out for any Cobra soldiers. Arashikage looks up to see a surveillance room connected to several catwalks and has everyone stop. "There's the control center. Cheshire, X, take care of it," he ordered. "No problem." X shimmers away and Cheshire jumps onto a large pipe and dashes into the shadows. Red X was the first to appear on the rooftop of the control room, with Cheshire landing lightly beside him and noticed a Cobra grunt typing on the computer. Cheshire was reaching for one of her say only to pause when she saw a Batarang land next to the man and released sleeping gas, rendering him conscious, and saw Robin enter the room and hack into the computer. "Aw, come on, I was gonna do that," he mutters when Kid Flash zips into the room. "Can you hear them through the soundproof glass?" Cheshire asked the Master Thief. Yep, just give me a sec. He leans over the glass window and plants a small device on the surface before pulling himself back up and pulls out a cryptographic sequencer. You're just a jock full of toys, aren't you? Cheshire teased. Red X looks up at her and eyes smile behind his visor. One of the perks of being a master thief. That and I'm always prepared. He turned the dial up so that they could hear the conversation between Robin and Kid Flash. What you've got? Chemical formulas. I'm guessing it involves venom. No kidding, Sherlock. X mutters only for Cheshire to shush him. That one's venom and the other one's wow, the blockbuster formula from Cadmus. Jade narrows her eyes in suspicion since she heard of the formula when it was in its prototype stage a few years back when she was with the Shadows. Mixed correctly, Cobra's new juices are 3 times stronger than venom. But, how did Cobra get access to Project Blockbuster? Our mystery buyer must also be Cobra's supplier, using the cult to create a blockbuster venom super formula. Red X turns the device off after hearing enough of the conversation and taps his communicator. Did you guys get all of that? X asked his teammates. Yeah, and now we know why Cobra took over. Using venom is bad enough, and from what Dad told me, the blockbuster serum was once a secret project in the military branch the higher-ups wanted to use in order to create super soldiers, but it was put on hold due to not having the correct formulas and the ill effects it caused. So it's possible that these buyers want this new formula for unknown means, and Cobra possibly wants to use whatever he's not selling to create his own army of mutant soldiers and then sell it on the black market. Cheshire deduced. For the love of Kami, these villains are all the same, Naruto muttered in annoyance. Seriously, you would think they'd try something new and less predictable. Is this coming from experience? Artemis asked. Artemis, in my world I have fought psychos, saved countries from power-hungry madmen, took on an organization of ninja that would give the Justice League a definite run for their money, and defeated demons the size of skyscrapers that could reduce a city into a barren wasteland. Arashikage commented. Sounds like you had a blast in your world, Arashi. Cheshire remarked and got a chuckle from him. Except for nearly dying on several occasions, I really wasn't a fan of that, but hey, it comes with the job. The sound of gunfire could be heard from a distance, resulting in Robin and Kid Flash leaving the control room. Hey sis, I'll bet you $3,000 if you can guess who caused that. Rose, however, snorted and shook her head. Sorry bro, but I don't take sucker bets. She replied back in a joking manner. So what's the plan? Artemis asked. X, you and Cheshire will gather the data on this Cobra venom while me, Artemis, and Ravager scout up ahead. Cage instructed. No fair, you 3 always get the fun parts of the mission. Cheshire whined, folding her arms in a childish manner, and pouted while hearing Artemis chuckle through her communicator. What is it with your family and violence? Red X questioned, only to get smacked in the back of the head by the X shadow. Ow. Damn it, Jade, did Rose teach you that? Jade gave him another smack for me. She requests and smiles when she hears him smack her brother again and hear him cry out again. Let's get a move on people and wait until after the mission to smack X around. Dude, I thought we were boys. X muttered, but then got back to the system for more info and pulled out a flash drive to store the files in. Meanwhile, destroy them. Cobra ordered, and his men took aim and fired at the intruders, consisting of a Qualid and Superboy, but Bane disappeared after attacking a few guards. The Qualid drew his water bearers and formed a water shield that would deflect the bullets, and used the other as a mid-ranged weapon, shooting water bullets and knocking down several of Cobra's men, while Superboy engaged Mammoth in hand-to-hand combat. From the beams, Artemis, Ravager, and Arashikage were running across the shadows that covered their forms and stopped to see the fight. Artemis narrowed her eyes as she saw Sportsmaster watching the scene and seemed to be eyeing a distortion in the air and noticed that it was sending some of the reinforcements flying across the room. The man narrowed his eyes and reached into his belt and pulled out a cylindrical item that took the shape of a javelin. He reared his arm back and threw it at the distortion, but Artemis pulled out her bow and a regular arrow, took aim, and fired at the descending projectile that was headed towards Miss Martian's invisible form. Gan turned her head and her eyes widened as she saw the javelin fly towards her, only to get sliced in half by a descending arrow that landed beside Sportsmaster's form. His eyes widened for a few seconds but returned to normal when he recognized the arrow and looked to see a shadowed figure disappearing. Robin and Kid Flash were running across the catwalk to assist their comrades, but the boy wonder stops when he sees Cobra and smirks, while the speedster goes to assist Calder and Gan. Arashikage also noticed Cobra and narrowed his eyes at the albino man who, along with Shimmer, were secretly retreating from the battle. Typically, retreat while the pawn's to the work, he said to himself and turned to Artemis and Ravage. I'm going to pay the snake a visit. Inform me when X and Jade get the data and I'll meet up. Break a leg. Ravager replied, getting a chuckle from Naruto. I'll do more than that. He said before vanishing. With Cobra. Abra and Shimmer were outside the factory near the chopper Sportsmaster took to the island, and the pale man frowned when Robin landed in front of him and his subordinate. Batman must be desperate to send his whelp after me, he said, not the least bit interested in dealing with the boy wonder. Robin however smirks at his adversary. What's wrong, Kobe? You look disconcerted. Robin taunted but got no reaction from the man. I'll say. Arishikage landed in between the young hero and villain, and their eyes widened as they saw the super ninja. Abra's expression shifted from its blank expression to one of fury and hatred. You, he snarled out as anger flashed in his eyes. You again? Robin said in surprise but narrowed his eyes at the blonde ninja. Hello boy, wonder how's the ego? Still sore from that scuffle in Gotham? He questioned, but Robin said nothing and kept a miffed expression. And Cobra, I see you replaced the arm I took with a new one. The man clenched his fist as he glared at Arashi. Yes, I seem to recall that encounter. Perhaps I'll take that along with your head as compensation. Robin glanced at them and raised a brow under his mask. You guys have some type of history? He asked. Yeah, a while back in Bloodhaven I tried to take his head but got his arm instead, but now I intend to finish what I started because the only way to kill a snake is to take off its head. He said in a cold tone and drew a tri-pronged kunai. Unlikely, Shimmer takes them. He ordered. She nodded and dashed towards Arashi and threw a punch at them, only for Naruto to simply backhand her into the chopper, getting a scowl from the man. You're gonna have to do better than that, Cobra. Indeed, a smirk crossed his face as he brought his arm up and snapped his fingers. From the shadows, two hulking figures walked around the chopper and stopped behind Cobra, revealing themselves to be mutated humans like Mammoth. I think these will be more than enough to deal with you and the boy. He backs away as the hulking mutants snarl menacingly, take care of them. Oh no you don't. Robin tries to go after him only to leap back as one of the beasts attempt to squash him. Arashi says nothing and summons Samehada. This won't take long. Robin, we're retreating, meet up with us at the tunnel. Calder informed the protege of the Dark Knight. Robin frowns, glancing between the mutants and Naruto, and lets out a reluctant sigh. Fine. He mutters mentally before pulling out a smoke pellet and throws it to the ground, creating a wall of smoke. Arashi notices but shrugs it off. Oh well, more fun for me, now who's first? The two mutants roar and charge at the blonde who slowly reaches for the hilt of the bandage blade who gurgles in excitement. That's right buddy, we're about to spill some blood. The beasts leapt at the ninja as he placed his hand around the hilt as they descended towards him. Meanwhile, X and Cheshire managed to get enough data on the formula and the thief places it in a pocket of his utility belt until the entire place shakes violently. Whoa. Arashi sure knows how to shake things up. He commented. Cheshire smiles under her mask and nods in agreement. And that's putting it literally. So do we get everything? Yep, let's go. Back outside the factory, Cobra scowls as he sees the bloody, broken, and unconscious forms of his creations in a crater. What a disappointment, he muttered and turned to the sportsmaster who exited the cockpit. The chopper was sabotaged, he informed the albino man, possibly by Robin or that ninja. Shimmer managed to regain herself after being knocked out so easily and stood beside her master while a couple of his men approached him. My lord, should we send out a search party to apprehend the intruders? The foot soldier asked only to cringe when Cobra glared at him. Don't be absurd, they'll come to us eventually, but for now find the problem to the chopper and prepare to load the shipment. He ordered and glanced at the Cobra venom-enhanced mutants on the ground. And clean up this mess. The sportsmaster glanced at the fallen beasts and back at Cobra. I take it they were merely test subjects. Your clients won't be too pleased if the serum proves to be faulty. He questioned. No need to worry, they were simply products. Mammoth is the true success to the formula and I didn't expect them to take down that accursed ninja. He informed the supervillain. For your sake Lord Cobra, the formula better prove to be successful. He warned the man before they headed into the factory. Back in the forest, Ravager, Artemis, Cheshire and Red X met up and Arishikage appeared before them, shouldering Samehada, and the master thief was the first to recognize the bloodstains on his flak jacket and coat. Do I even want to know whose blood you got on your outfit? He asked in an amused tone. Just dealt with some test subjects injected with Cobra venom. Arashi replied like it was no big deal and the sword gurgled in glee, causing Artemis to look creeped out. Did that sword just growl? She questioned and again Samehada's bandage form squirmed and gurgled. Yes she did and almost chewed Rose's arm off a few years back. He replied as the sword hissed in agreement. I've got the teeth marks to prove it. Ravager said as she glared at Samehada. So did you get the data X? Red X nodded and pulled the flash drive out. Yep, got everything in this little drive, and the only thing we need to get is a sample to study. Don't worry, I got that handled. Arishikage informed his group who each gave him a questioning look. Trust me, I've got this. He assured them but Ravager didn't look too convinced. The last time you said that the top of an underground facility collapsed on us. She commented. Yeah, and I came close to drowning. Red X replied back, getting a sweat drop from the blonde. And I was almost mauled to death by 2 lions. Cheshire says, and now Ereshkigal was looking sheepish. Artemis, you might want to step away unless you want that tree to fall on you. Said Era user shifted away from him and stood next to X while taking in her surroundings. Okay, are you all done, because I'm not the poster child for unforeseen events? Arashi questioned. Did I mention I almost drowned? A tick mark formed on the back of his head and Naruto glared back at the master thief. Grant, shut up or I'll kill you. He threatened while Jade and Artemis snickered. And if you two don't stop laughing, I'll tell them your most embarrassing moments, especially yours, Jade. This caused them to stop and avert their gaze from him, especially Jade, who was happy she was wearing a whole mask. Anyways, aside from encountering the pale snake, I also saw the boy wonder, meaning that he along with his group are possibly after the same thing. He theorized. So do we have any other option aside from sticking to the shadows? Artemis asked. Yeah, we attack. Arashi answered. Cobra may have numbers but not the manpower, and that is his major flaw. You must be a riot at parties, dude, so how should we go about attacking Cobra and his goons? X asked his leader. Simple, we're gonna get the little leaguers to help us. He answered. And how do you pray to convince those goody-goodies to help us, leader? Ravager questioned as she folded her arms under her chest, only to see him smile. Oh, I can be very convincing, and you're proof of that, Rose. He said but used a teasing tone in her name. Artemis and Jade blushed slightly at the innuendo, while X had a disgusted look under his mask. Okay, that is something I didn't need to know. Grant muttered. Rose simply smiled and walked past him. And I can say the same for you, Naruto. She whispered in smirks when he jumped slightly due to pinching his rear and leaving him shocked at the reaction she took while X snickers. I thought I'd never see the day when Naruto got outfoxed and by my sister no less, the world must be ending. X joked. Naruto snapped out of his stupor and glared at X. Go raid an antique store, Wilson. He snapped back only to get a laugh from the guy. Meanwhile, the team managed to escape from the cults through the tunnels which Superboy caved in to keep Mammoth from going after them, and after dubbing Aqualid as their leader and headed out of the tunnels, they encountered Bane, who attempted to kill them with some C4 that he placed around the exit and with a detonator in his hand to make them go off, but Kid Flash took it from him. This Martian used her telekinesis to restrain him in mid-air and released him, dropping the man into Superboy's fist and knocking him. Now that the Luchador is knocked out, how are we gonna stop this shipment from going down? Kid Flash questioned. Perhaps I could help. Robin scowls as he sees Ereshkigal walk out of the shadows with his arms folded. What do you want? Robin demanded. The blonde ninja raised a brow from the look of annoyance on Robin's face and inwardly chuckled. Relax, boy wonder, I'm not here to fight, I'm here to help. I think you helped us enough that we can handle ourselves. Robin said in an irritated tone, getting confused looks from the female Martian who glanced back at Ereshkigal and Robin's scowling face. Did I miss something? Miss Martian asked. Long story short, me and a partner were doing some cleaning up in Gotham. We ran into the dynamic duo, had a little face-off, and Hinadori, baby bird, here got put to sleep, and now his ego is bruised. Arashi explains and smirks under his mask when Robin's eye twitches. Hina, what now? Kid Flash asked. He called him a baby bird in Japanese. Superboy replied and raised a brow when most of them looked at him. What? Cadmus programmed all forms of historical knowledge into my brain. The point is we don't need help from the likes of you, and I had Cobra right where I wanted him until you showed up. Robin argued. Page sighs and shakes his head in annoyance. Okay, one loses the childish attitude just because you got smacked around a bit, it happens. 2 Cobra's mutated pets would have ripped you apart had I not showed up, and 3 are you height challenged? Kid Flash snorted at the jab from his best friend's height but turned his head the other way when Robin glared at him and was about to retort only for Aqualid to place a hand on his shoulder. Now is not the time for past conflicts, Robin, we have a mission to finish. True, but the last time we got assisted, we nearly got blown to smithereens. The speedster informed the Atlantean. True, but that was your own fault for trusting a guy like Bane, especially you, boy wonder. Arashi chastised and ignored the glare he got. I on the other hand have no vendetta against you or the Justice League, so I won't stab you in the back despite my profession, and the same goes for my teammates. Ravager was next to land and walked out of the shadows, as was Cheshire and Artemis, with Red X appearing via teleportation, causing Robin's eyes to widen. Red X? Robin said in a surprised tone. The Master Thief turned his gaze at Robin and waved. Long time, no see, kid. Is Batman still holding your hand, or are you finally allowed to leave the Batcave by yourself? He teased me. Kid Flash on the other hand was eyeing Artemis. Hey gorgeous, you a Green Arrow fan? he asked with a flirtatious grin on her face, but Artemis gave him a blank look. No, and I'm not interested in you, despite your heroics being played on television. She replied back and got a shrug from the speedster. Too bad, you're missing out, babe. He responded back smugly. Artemis however narrowed her eyes as he started to eye her figure some more. Don't call me babe, and if you don't avert your gaze from my body you'll be the fastest kid alive with a limp. She threatened. Focus on people, or did you all forget what our top priority is? Naruto informed me. Yeah, our priority is this covert mission and I don't trust you. Even though I not only saved your lives not only in Cadmus, but also when that android was gonna turn you and your team into French toast. Arashikage questioned, and as far as I'm concerned you owe me. Robin sputtered at what he said, unable to make a sentence due to the blonde ninja's counter-argument. He's right, we do owe him, Robin, no matter how much we try to deny it for saving our lives. Aqualid says. But I have to agree with Aqualid on this, Robin. Superboy countered. It wouldn't be so bad to team up with them just this once. Miss Martian stated. Kid Flash rubbed the back of his head and sighs. Gotta go with Aqualid on this, Rob, sorry. Realizing that he was outvoted he lets out a defeated sigh. Fine, we'll team up for now. He says, giving Arashi one more heated glare, and goes into mission mode. So what's the plan? Back at the factory. The helicopter blades were whirling around slowly but steadily, showing that the chopper was fully functioning. Several Cobra guards were stationed around the entrance and heliport, and one of the soldiers approached him and Sportsmaster, who had the samples in his hands and the shipments in the cargo hold. The helicopter is an operational Exalted One. The grunt replied with a bow, getting a nod of approval from his master. Then my work here is done. Sportsmaster says and heads to the chopper until a black blur knocks down two of the Cobra grunts and a third takes fire, only for the blur to easily evade the bullets and take him down as well. Take the shipment. Cobra yelled and Sportsmaster took off towards the chopper. 3 red shuriken land behind several cultists, beeping for a few seconds and then explode, sending the grunts flying and hitting the ground hard. What the? One grunt shouts out in surprise, unaware of Red X appearing behind him, and knocks out with a hard karate chop to the next. One spun around, attempted to fire at him, but a blade cuts the rifle in half courtesy of Ravager, who knocks him out with a spin kick and dashes at 2 armed guards who were firing a KF and takes them out with a combo of punches and kicks. Superboy lands hard on the ground behind 2 grunts who are sent flying from the shockwave and grins at Mammoth. Rematch. He taunted, getting a snarl from the mutant. He charges at Superboy while Kid Flash bypasses him and knocks out another Cobra worshipper. When Mammoth gets close enough, he roars out in surprise as a large torrent of water hits him and sends him skidding back. Sorry, maybe next time. The clone replied as Aqualid pushed him back using the water bearers while his tattoos glowed. Superboy looks around for any stragglers, unaware that Sportsmaster was sneaking behind him with a plasma rifle aimed at his back. He fires a red bolt and smirks when he cries out in surprise and stumbles forward, while the masked man fires several more rounds that make Superboy stumble forward several more times. He was about to fire another round, but his senses alerted him to danger and avoided having his head impaled by a sai that got embedded into the hull of the chopper. He turned his head only to be on the receiving end of an aerial spin kick that made him stumble back as Cheshire landed and drew her other sai. Hello, Dad. Cheshire spoke with venom in her voice. Sportsmaster rubs his jaw but then smirks under his mask. Hello, little girl, did you come all this way just to say hi? He asked in a gruff and arrogant tone. Yeah, and to carve my name into your hide. She said back as she pulled her hand back, using the invisible wire to pull her other sai back into her hand, and glanced back at Superboy. Go help your friends, he's mine. The clone blinks but nods and leaps off to help the others. If that's what you want, Jade, then I'll play with you for a bit. He says and draws one of his javelins from his belt while Jade rushes at him with the intent to kill him. While this happened, an invisible Miss Martian was in the chopper and plants an explosive in the shipment and sets it on active with a light blinking red. Cobra was scowling as he saw his men fall before him by the combined forces of the young heroes and anti-heroes. He moved back to avoid being ensnared by some bolas that caught Shimmer and knocked her down while Robin landed before him, smirking. I know you don't like getting your hands dirty, but… True, Cobra removed his cape which dropped to the ground, revealing his muscular form to the boy wonder, but sometimes even a god must step to conquer. He declared but hisses when a kunai slashes his cheek and hits the ground. Last I checked, Cobra gods didn't bleed when you cut them. Arashikage said as he stood before the man with Samahada unwrapped, revealing a row of razor-sharp teeth and growling at the pale man. You remember Samahada, right? The sword that took your left arm? Robin had to hold in a shiver as the sentient blade salivated and saw its tongue roll out. And from her reaction, she likes the way you taste, which is bad for you. I will kill you for that humiliation. Cobra swore and stopped an aerial kick from Robin and tossed him over his head before rushing at Arashikage. Said ninja smirks under his mask and swings Samehada underneath his legs with said blade opening its maw to take one of his legs, but Cobra leaps over the blade and descends towards him with his fist reared back but gets repelled back by an unknown force that sends him flying back and into a steel door. He grits his teeth from the pain as he feels several of his bones crack but rolls away as Samehada's face slams into his previous location and Arashi pulls the sword back while it ripped the steel out with its teeth, chewing it up and spitting it out in disgust. "What's the matter, Lord Cobra? I thought you were gonna repay me for taking your arm the last time we met." Cage taunted as Cobra growled at him and grunted out in pain as he was hit by several and used his arm to block the rest. "What's wrong, Kobe? Feeling the aster?" Robin said as he threw another batarang which Cobra caught and crushed the weapon in his hands. Samehada hisses in glee as she is gonna attempt to attack him again. "Hold on, girl, since the hebe's getting his hands dirty I might as well do the same." She growls in disappointment and whines, getting a sigh from her master. "I'll give you 2 large steaks after the mission's over, okay?" Samehada grins happily before dispersing in a puff of smoke. "Ready for round 2? He challenged and his answer was the man rushing him again with a right hook to the face, but he easily sidesteps it and stops a reversal heel kick with his forearm. "Hold still." He bellowed as he swung out at the blonde who ducks and strikes him inside with a vicious elbow strike and hears some ribs break. Cobra coughs up some blood and is struck in the face with a high kick and stumbles back clutching his bleeding and broken nose. "That's 3 ribs and your nose I broke. I wonder how many bones I can break before I go for your neck." Arashi wondered as he cracked his knuckles. Robin however didn't know whether to be impressed or scared. Meanwhile, Sportsmaster was on the defensive as Jade attacked him with a series of mixed punches and kicks and couldn't help but be impressed with how much she progressed. "You're getting slow, old man." Cheshire taunted as she threw a palm strike to his face, but he maneuvers around it and pulls a surprised Jade into a full Nelson. "But you're getting sloppy, I taught you better than that." He chastised as she struggled under his strength. Using her speed and flexibility, Cheshire swung her lower body upwards, freeing herself from his grip and kicked off his back, making him stumble a little. "Yes you did, but now it's time to end this," she said as she drew her sei, unaware that her father had pulled a flash bomb from his belt. "Maybe next time, little girl," he said and threw a flash bomb that released a flashlight, forcing Jade to cover her eyes and walk backwards from the blinding light, hearing the blades rotate and the chopper to take off. As her vision cleared, she looked up at the helicopter's retreating form and tapped her comlink. "Do it." Artemis was watching from a tree and pulls out a detonator switch and presses the red button. In the helicopter the light on the C4 blinks red a few times before blinking green and releases an explosion in the cargo hold, destroying the shipment of Cobra venom and spinning the chopper out of control. Sportmaster pulls the joystick up to regain control as his means of transportation descends upon the factory, but fails so with no other option. He pulls open the door hatch and dives out of the chopper, releasing his parachute as he heads into the jungle. The chopper crashes into the factory and causes a great explosion that lights up the night and a restrained Bane seeds as his base is destroyed. Cobra was furious due to the burn marks, cuts, and nasty bruises he was sporting, while Arashikage wasn't harmed whatsoever, while Robin remained in his fighting stance. Everyone else joined up with them and had Cobra outnumbered. "This victory means nothing, I will return and you all will face my wrath." He swore as he moved backwards into the floor with Robin going after him, but frowned when he realized Cobra was gone. Well, this was a fun evening. Ravager, X, Artemis, and Cheshire gather around Arashi later kids and tell Batman I said hey. With that, they vanished in a flash of yellow and were gone from sight. "So who's gonna explain all of this to Batman?" KF asked. "The leader who votes happens to be a qualid," Robin replied before chuckling. In the jungle. Sportsmaster lands on the ground after removing the parachute and pulls out 2 ampules and inspects them before grabbing one of them and tossing it to a shadowed figure who caught it. "There, I got your sample of the formula, happy?" "Yeah, I'll be sure to contact you as soon as possible for our next course of action." Arashikage replies as he pockets the sample. "You do realize when Artemis and Jade find out about this, you're a dead man, right?" Sportsmaster questioned in an amused tone, getting a chuckle from Naruto. "Artemis I can deal with, but Jade is a different story and will probably kill me in any way she can, so do you need a ride back?" "Nope, got a back chopper near the shores just in case, later partner." The end. Thanks for watching my video and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.